Luc Bouchard with Solve Act Life Coaching Services. I've been a certified life skills coach for 22 years and I specialize in men's issues and the male condition. And one of the things I really look at is ego and when egos are a problem. Welcome. Today is day 17 of the 72-day challenge. We're in a new week. This is the third week and our weekly focus is ego. The daily focus is the male condition, and our topic today is the correlation between ego and humility. I want to thank you for joining me, and we're going to jump right into the topic. So I've noticed that when it comes to describing bad behavior in men and undesirable behavior in men, that the word ego is often used far more than when it comes to describing bad behavior in women. So we'll hear things like a man is egoful, or his ego is out of control, or he's very prideful, which is really about ego in a lot of ways. And you don't hear that as often with women. You don't hear that kind of same descriptors with women. Other words are used for them. So it would seem to me, just from a cursory glance looking at it, that ego is really a male designation of behavior. Men get that word more than others. And where ego is seen, I see ego to be really problematic, is when men engage in behaviors where they can't admit they're wrong, have to engage in posturing, have a lot of need to save face, and basically are so bent on what they're doing that they're going to do it regardless of the outcome because of their egos just dictate that they have to do it. And a really big thing with ego is not being able to admit you're wrong, like I mentioned. Something else I've noticed working with men is that there seems to be a correlation between huge ego and and lack of humility. That there is really, the greater the ego, the greater the need to be right, the greater the need to have all the answers, the less the ability to have humility. And humility is really about being able to say, I don't know, or I don't have the answers, or I don't get it. And when you're so bent on being right, you're so bent on having all the answers, you really can't have a lot of humility. You really can't. You're really invested in being, showing no weakness in a lot of ways. And that's where ego in male behavior really is very problematic. And that's probably why it's a male designation, because men really need to be right in a lot of ways, especially when they have low self-esteem. So I'd like to tell you about a story of something that happened recently to me, where I saw a couple guys who had massive egos and not much humility. It's a Saturday night, and I'm walking towards my downtown core, and I live in a city where a river goes right through the middle of it. And so on the south side of the river, you have walking paths and a great view of the downtown core. And where I was coming to an area where there's benches where you can sit, and people are riding their bikes, and it's a very lovely evening. And as I come around the corner, I happen to see that there's two guys in their early 20s hitting golf balls, full bags, drinking beer, hitting golf balls into the river valley. And I was actually amazed that I saw this. I'm thinking, really? And I thought, well, maybe these guys don't know that there's walking paths and bike paths beneath them, and that there's a parking lot, oddly enough, for a golf course just right there, that if they slice, they're going to hit the balls right into people's cars and into people. So I go up to them, and I think, should I say anything? Should I not? Who knows what these guys are about? And I thought, well, I can't not say anything because of what might happen if they should happen to anyone, and I wouldn't be able to live with myself if I chose to remain silent. So I approached one of the guy that was more the alpha male, and I say, hey, I noticed that you guys are hitting golf balls, and And he goes, yeah. And I said, well, you know that there's walking paths and bike paths down there. He goes, oh yeah, we know that, but we're carrying to the river. And I look and I go, the river's like 250 yards. It was like a distance. And I said, well, I've seen you guys swing and you're not that good. And you're missing the ball and you're topping it and you're going to put it into the bike path below. And I said, you guys are going to keep doing this? And they said, oh yeah. And I thought, and I was amazed. I said, well, then I guess I need to call the cops. And I walked away, and this guy had a dumbfounded look on his face, like, how dare I talk to him, or what the hell is my problem for approaching him on that? And I looked back over my shoulder and I said, you're a couple assholes for doing that. And went back to my house and called the cops. I don't know what the outcome of that was. I don't know if anything happened. I don't know how long those guys stayed. I suspect that after I left, then they probably went, they probably left because it's really cowardice behavior in a lot of ways to hit golf balls into an area where people are going to be walking and not care. But the point of the story is it really illustrates a couple guys with massive egos and low humility. And no ability to think about their consequences for their actions, are so bent on their own gratification of doing what they're doing. Couldn't go to a driving range and hit some golf balls there. They had to actually hit into an area where they claimed they knew there was going to be people around. And that's just egomaniac. They're so egoful and no humility whatsoever. And I see it all the time. I see it with behavior. And I'm going to suggest that this type of behavior of guys hitting into golf balls is on the slippery slope of what you see of men beating women and bullying behavior. Because if you have that much disregard for other people, I have no reason to believe that these two guys are going to be wife beaters. Why wouldn't they? They just think that they're right. And when it comes to bullying behavior and aggression towards women and aggression towards others and verbally and physically aggressive behavior, that's ego. That's, I get to do whatever I want because you've pissed me off. You're responsible for my behaviors because if you hadn't done it, then I wouldn't need to do this. Regardless of the relationship, regardless of what she brings to the picture and how she's contributed to the dysfunction in the relationship, when you have one person that thinks they're justified in engaging in physical and verbal aggression against someone else, that's your ego, pure and simple. And we need to stop being quiet about this. We need to call it. Tomorrow I'm going to talk about the men's co-signing each other's bullshit under the guise of friendship, and you're going to hear more of this. So if you're engaged in any physical or verbal abuse, it's bullying and it's not okay. And it's really your ego out of control because you don't have much humility. If you think you're justified in that behavior, you don't have the ability to go, maybe I contribute to the problem. And that's your ego, pure and simple. So I think that's all I want to say on that. By the numbers, there's a correlation between huge ego and lack of humility, and that generally people who are really entrenched in their ego, men who are really entrenched in their ego, don't have much humility, and certainly I think it's a problematic until they're humbled. And that's why men get humbled, is because their egos are out of control. So, Luc Bouchard with Solvac Life Coaching Services. I've been a certified life skills coach for 22 years, and I specialize in the male ego and how men engage in egoful behaviors that keeps them stuck. And my last thoughts and my parting words are, do you deserve to have a huge ego? And men who are really entrenched in their ego go, oh yeah, well my ego's okay. And I'm going, no, it's not. And humility is really about being open to possibilities that are external from ourselves. So I'll leave you with that thought, and I hope you have a fabulous day, and I'll see you tomorrow when I talk about men and how they co-sign each other's bullshit. Take care.